Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast. Now, if you're like me and you've got some titles on Filmhub, you might have recently seen Relay pop up and get some emails about it, maybe get added to a Facebook group. So I thought it'd be good to sit down with someone from Filmhub. So I've got Chad Wittman with me today. Hi, Chad. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yes, good. So I've been through all the Facebook group. I've been through forums online for the sort of relay-related questions people are asking. So I've got a bit of a list here to fire at you to see if we can find out a bit more about the streaming service, if that's cool with you.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about Relay. We've been working hard, so happy to dig into the details.
Good. Right. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. So for people who aren't familiar, what is it? What is Relay?
Yeah, so Relay is a new streaming app. We have a massive library given that we are a wholly owned subsidiary from Filmhub. So I think it's this beautiful benefit of Filmhub has really built out this powerful distribution engine for filmmakers and studios and everyone involved in film. And this is really this consumer side now of like, okay, where do consumers kind of come to watch and go explore that? And so it's really meant to be kind of two sides of a coin and saying like Filmhub is really building out this kind of filmmaker home for distribution. And then the Relay is really this consumer experience, big mainstream mass market approach to exposing the large side of films and titles and shows that Filmhub has, and obviously wanting to grow and expand that into its own standalone service. And it is a currently standalone service, but really on its own two legs. Right.
And from an audience point of view, from a viewer, they pay a subscription and it's ad free. Can you describe that for me as a
Yeah. So there's over 20,000 titles. It's $4.99. We are on Roku and Apple TV, iOS, Android, a lot of the platforms, Fire TV as well. Want to be on even more platforms, but think a premium streaming service that has a big, massive library, human curated picks. We definitely use some AI to do some perfection on the edges, but we really do believe in using humans curation at the center of this and really building it for filmmakers by filmmakers as that kind of initial phase of it, and really building a great streaming platform.
Cool. And so it's completely ad free, or do you have to pay extra for a non-ad version?
So it's $4.99 and that is ad free. So if you kind of think about the market is being split of like, hey, we have all these platforms that are AVOD and it's advertising, there's ads every few minutes. And then, or you can pay $20 a month and have ad free and kind of the traditional streaming platform. We really think this Relay sits in the middle of that. At $4.99, you have the opportunity to have a premium experience at an affordable price.
So let me ask you some of the filmmaker questions that I got that come through. So, okay, question number one is about revenue, payments, and business model. And obviously, these questions come from people, I guess, who already on the Filmhub platform have now seen they've been added on Relay or potentially want to be added on Relay. So the first question is, what is the real financial incentive for filmmakers to direct their audience to Relay when their films are already available free on Tubi and other AVOD platforms?
Yeah, I think the simplest way of thinking about it is that in order to have a sustainable business model, is we really, really believe that SVOD is the platform. And when you have subscribers that are paying in a fixed amount into the platform on a per view basis for these platforms, you really allow the filmmaker to have an opportunity to truly earn something meaningful for minutes watched, right? And so AVOD is certainly great at saying like, hey, if I want 10,000, 100,000 people to go see this particular title, and we've all seen some of the really low CPMs that are continuing to decrease over time, you can get maybe big viewerships but small amount of money. And so I think any platform that's doing SVOD and Relay certainly believes strongly in this model. You have an opportunity to really earn something more material for every minute watched. And so we really think that you got to nail that sweet spot, though. It's not necessarily about launching Relay at $20 a month, as we talked about. that I think that building that premium experience for $5 a month, you really per minute watched of your content, you have an opportunity to really earn something. I think the second part is because of the relationship between Filmhub and Relay. Relay has been able to secure a 60-40 split with Filmhub. And so we also have the opportunity to put filmmakers ahead as well, saying like, hey, this distribution here that we want to, and the way that we want to think about revenue split, let's do it in a filmmaker first way. So you have SVOD on one side, you have the rev share industry leading on the other side. I think it's hopefully a great, exciting value proposition to filmmakers to be like, yeah, that's certainly, if I could pick a minute to be watched on my title, I want it to happen on Relay because of those two reasons.
So question number 2 I've got for you is, how does Relay pay filmmakers compared to AVOD? Is there a per view structure, a revenue share calculation, and is it transparent?
Yeah, so try to break each one of those questions a little bit in here. So, I mean, at the highest level, right, when you have SVOD, it's fundamentally different than AVOD, right? So you're not reliant on advertisers and CPMs and different kind of market dynamics that are going on with the particular season of, you often see in Q4, maybe that goes up, maybe election season goes up, all those things that are happening with CPMs. With SVOD, you have a fixed amount of revenue that's coming in directly into the platform that's supporting this, right? And so we really think it's important for us to put that filmmaker first, and we think using SVOD as the foundation there allows you to, allocate that minutes watch. We do want to experiment. I don't want to commit exactly to the exact model here, but like paying out filmmakers in a way that incentivizes like a fair distribution across that. Because one of the things you can have happen too on platforms is if you have one particular title kind of run away with it and you do it necessarily in just a pro rata, then that title can get maybe not unfairly rewarded, but you can kind of have a distribution to the top, right? And we just really are thinking about the average filmmaker on the platform as well. And so we want to continue to explain and provide more documentation how we're doing the payouts. But the general idea here is that you have SVOD, you're getting a distribution of your watch time that's distributed across the thing. And I'm excited to eventually unveil some more innovative approaches and continuing to figure out ways to make that more and more balanced. But I think the thing that I'm also really excited about is we really think about Relay as being by filmmakers for filmmakers, and we want to build community. So I also think that's part of the reason we've built the Facebook group, and we've been reaching out to filmmakers to say, hey, what are you guys interested in? What do you guys like? Let's help co-create a little bit here and understand. So what areas do you want to see transparency, and which areas do we want to go drive that? So I think that roadmap is really exciting to me as well as a builder to be able to build that out. So hopefully I answered those 3 buckets, but feel free to dig in on one of those if I skipped it.
No, that sounds good. And I think it's from somebody who's been through the traditional distribution route many times and been screwed over. You've done something right in that you pay, which is great. And now actually asking the filmmakers what they want. I've never had a sales agent or a distributor do that. So you're already ahead in my book.
Well, so I want to double down on that a little bit, which is like, we just think that's really important. I think there's an opportunity here to have, from a filmmaker lens, we believe that we're the first streaming platform that's really open and thinking and wanting to discuss and build community around that. And I think from a filmmaker perspective, that's truly unique, right? And then when we think about building the business, we have to now also think about the consumers and the everyday streamers of the mainstream mass market. And, we continue to build out that value proposition as well. But I do think from a filmmaker audience, we just really want to stress that, there's an opportunity here to build community, and we're certainly trying to invest in that. And I think that is an important foundation of this entire project.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to get some feedback from a platform so that you as a filmmaker can use all the best tools to promote your film and actually get eyes on it and get people to it in the first place, because that's ultimately what you want. Okay, next one I've got is Filmhub taking a cut from Relay payments, and how does that work since Relay is Filmhub's subsidiary?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a pretty common model. Disney owns Hulu, Paramount owns Pluto for these studios to have different streaming platforms. So same relationship here. So yes, Filmhub does take a small cut, just like they do across all of streaming platforms they work with, and it's a very similar kind of standard in the industry.
Okay. Would Relay ever offer higher pay rates to filmmakers who choose exclusivity or windowed exclusivity? And this kind of leads into their second question, which was about, is it are you still behind the strategy of being everywhere, or do you see any kind of exclusivity stuff happening in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think, retreating back into this lens of, what's best for the filmmaker is certainly on the table for Relay. Right now, like, exclusivity isn't something that we're pursuing and operating on. We generally have this belief that films should be everywhere, and that it's, kind of a rising tide lifts all boats type approach here. So, our belief and our strategy is not necessarily trying to bring these titles over to Relay. We really want Relay to stand on its own 2 feet in terms of, like, filmmakers want to promote their title on Relay because of these incentive mechanisms, the SVOD and, industry leading rev share. So I think that's more interesting to us than exclusivity.
Right. Okay. Cool. My next set of questions is kind of about the platform itself, how you're marketing it and growing it and acquiring viewers. So what's Relay's marketing strategy to bring viewers in? So not filmmakers, but more people to watch on Relay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have really some large titles with big actors, great cast, Glenn Powell, Cuba Gooding Jr., Brendan Fraser, films that they're featured in those titles. So, I mean, I think, how do we market those? How do we market the broader 20,000 titles that are in there? I've been thinking a lot about, ironically enough, right? So the platform itself is focused on human curation and using AI for perfection. Ironically, on the marketing out to consumers, I think a lot about AI, and I think about feeds and distribution. And one of the assets we have, right, such a deep library, it's how do we show behind the scenes, trailers, sneak previews, clips, and use the algorithms that are dominating on Instagram and TikTok to have the audiences that might really resonate with that particular thing find that and then want to go watch it on Relay. Mm-hmm. And so we're still early in that journey, but I certainly think that is the early path that we're seeing some success with on thinking about this very deep library and this opportunity to surface great films to people that may not be aware of those films or may not be aware of Relay, and using social to go do that. And the blessing, and I don't want to say a curse, but the blessing here is that we also have a deep library of art and films, right? So, being able to repurpose those in select and strategic ways and getting that out and then driving that back, I think is the opportunity. But that's the general approach that we're going after at the moment.
Yeah, it would be cool if you had a couple of social media channels that we as filmmakers can collab on content with you. So if we put up a short clip of the film with Relay plastered all over it, or a trailer or something, that would be a cool thing, I think, for filmmakers, because it would help also grow their audience.
It feels like you've been looking a little bit at my to-do list, but yeah, I'm currently working on this tool that allows filmmakers to grab high quality assets to overlay onto your Instagram story. If you want an image, you want a 3D, video, VFX and animation of the logo, right? How do we give people assets that are professional and exciting, and then allow you guys to create content? And then the ones that make sense, assuming they hit a certain quality bar, like Relay should amplify, right? And we should do collaborations on that. And so I think that is a really exciting thing. I think, as an aside, I think a lot of filmmakers, they're so great at telling stories, and they've gotten really great at long form storytelling. And I think that some of the things I've seen as well is, like, you could actually, in some cases, repackage the little bullets here to tell that mini story and do social actually really, really well, which then could drive, millions of impressions, which then, drive a material amount of watch time back to your title. And I'm not seeing a lot of filmmakers really, I think, maybe strengthen that muscle. Maybe that's just my, outside perception, but I think the filmmakers that we've seen who are trying to do a little bit of both certainly are having the most impact, because they're able to tell a story in a short form, but then you can go watch that long form on a streaming platform of your choice, hopefully Relay. But
yeah. And I would say, as an aside, as a filmmaker, the most popular clips I put out have been the shortest, really short, literally just 10-second clip of the film with a logo. Usually I'm pushing people to Tubi. But it's lovely on Filmhub when you see that actually having an effect, positive effect on people, especially on those Tubi groups. That's another thing, I guess, is the other thing filmmakers lean into at the moment is the Tubi Facebook groups, because they're really good places to promote films and talk about films. Are you going to sort of encourage people to have Relay Facebook groups. I don't know how you would do that, but I guess that would be a good place to start getting that audience.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I said, I mean, I think there is a muscle that is not being used as much, and I would love for Relay to help filmmakers explore that and perfect it. And then obviously, hopefully, the help is that we're driving also eyeballs back to Relay. But I do think that could be applicable to any streaming platform of their choice. But I mean, I definitely think there is a lot of opportunity in that. And we certainly, the other area too, I think that filmmakers have less maybe experience and visibility into it is, also like great artwork goes a really long way. And, and I think I always find it interesting just as a human being, kind of take me away from the Relay ecosystem for a second. And you see how great a film is and then how bad the artwork is. And knowing the data side from kind of the marketing of like how even a small decrease in click-through rate just dramatically impacts an algorithm's likelihood of recommending that. And I do think that's another area that I think a lot about of like, how does every title have best in class artwork to tell that story? So that, because unfortunately, for better or worse, you either have a 5-second TikTok clip or artwork that's going to be the introduction generally to that title. And so I do think there's a really big, interesting opportunity around that as well. Of how do we empower filmmakers to deliver really great artwork, and or at least just give them like a rubric, right? Of just saying, hey, this, you've worked so hard on the film, like, can you go do another week or so just to spend a lot of time on that artwork, as painful as it might feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I always bleat on about is your poster it's got to be so obvious what it is, and that title has got to be really clear so that people can see what it is, see what it's called. And it's always worth going on, say, Tubi or Relay, looking at what's popular in that genre and kind of thinking about your poster in relation to that. Because that's kind of what you want, is you want something that people are going to go, oh, it's a bit like that, just to get them to watch it. It doesn't matter if it's not that film. You just need to get them to actually start watching the movie.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, I think a lot of filmmakers sometimes too, they're like looking for the still in their existing film to kind of modify to tell that story. And I actually, having thought a lot about title artwork, it's like rarely is that the right poster though, right? Because you might not exactly have the right shots of all the different characters. And so almost thinking about like, I need to be prepared for that, right? So that I can conjure. And if you look at a lot of the top, movie posters at the movie theater, right? It's like, those are very specific, production to go get those shots to tell that story of that poster, which might be, for better or worse, materially different than what actually happens in the film, right? It's a different medium to tell a slightly different story. But again, the thing I want to stress is that I don't think a lot of filmmakers realize that a small improvement in something like click-through rate in an algorithmic world doesn't mean a small improvement in recommendations. It can mean a 30x improvement in distribution because of the way algorithms compound. A slightly different movie poster at a movie theater, your actual impact isn't probably going to be all that different because there's not that flywheel that's happening algorithmically.
Yeah, all I was going to pick up on that point is one of the things I advise people to do is get a cheap $20 green screen off Amazon, take it on your film shoot and just get some posed quality stills of your cast, like you say, in those kind of dramatic poses, because the guy who's doing your post, guy or girl who's doing your poster will thank you later down the line, and the poster looks so much better as a result.
Love that.
So what I was going to say was, back to my filmmaker questions. Is Relay pursuing mainstream film acquisitions to elevate the platform and drive traffic to indie films?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I highlighted some of the titles before, but we certainly have some big films with some well-known cast: Glenn Powell, Cuba Gooding Jr., Brendan Fraser, etc. But I mean, we're always looking for all sorts of great films to put on the platform. We know that regular big mainstream consumers are certainly wanting to find all sorts of different titles. Familiar faces can help. We also know that there's a lot of great titles out there that don't have necessarily familiar faces as well. So it's really anything and everything. We want great films at the end of the day.
Yeah, amen to that. Will Relay share viewing analytics, trends, or audience insights so indie creators can improve their marketing?
Yeah, so I actually think that is the most I shouldn't say it's the most exciting. It's one of the most exciting aspects of the entire platform opportunity. I really think we have an opportunity to like show world-class analytics. Like I don't want to make any promises on the podcast, but my brain's thinking like there's a world here where we eventually work our way to real-time analytics. We can say, hey, people dropped off here. They searched for this term and clicked on that. Like, I think that's one of the most beautiful things of the Filmhub Relay relationship is that we can really give you best-in-class analytics of what's happening on Relay. And you're not going to be it's not going to be 100% apples to apples to every other streaming platform out there, but hopefully you can go and learn some really interesting insights for either how to package that particular title or how to do the next title, right? But I am so excited about giving world-class analytics and ideally as fast as possible. I think we have expectations as consumers, right? Of like, well, I watched the video, the platform knows I watched it. Why doesn't it tell the filmmaker right now that it's been watched? Why do I have to wait a month or a quarter, right? Or even let alone a day? So I'm really excited about that. And I think we're going to have some very awesome, transparent analytics for folks to be able to learn a lot.
Yeah, that would be really cool because it's really helpful. I guess the only place that you can really get that at the moment is YouTube. So is that percentage viewed when people drop off out of it, and their analytics are bang up to date. So yeah, please can we have that? What was the thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, just jumping back to artwork for a minute. What's your view on AI artwork? Where do you stand on
that? Me as a person, I personally think that it's incredibly valuable. I know that filmmakers have a complicated relationship with it. I know creatives have a complicated relationship with AI. I know Relay is really focused on human curation as well in it. But just as a sidebar, the data that I've seen, and I think the progress that AI tools have made is been so material that being able to, you talked about going and getting that perfect photo on set, right? Let's just say a particular actor's arm or shoulder is up too high in order to do the thing, right? To me, what's the material difference between using Photoshop to try to modify that arm to get that perfect look that you want versus using AI, especially some of these more editing style AIs, kind of like Nano Banana and things of that nature. I don't think personally the difference is too high as long as you're telling the right visual story. And when I go back to giving the filmmaker the ability to deliver the best artwork, and then knowing the results are, again, a slight improvement is not a slight improvement in watch time. We're talking thousands of percent, 30x. I've seen it upwards of 50x. That if you sort of have a philosophical belief that I don't want to use AI image generation because X, Y, and Z, that's fine. But I think every filmmaker needs to know when they say that, they're also saying I'm not interested in a 30x improvement in watch time and revenue. And I just think there's obviously a delicate balance between art and business, but 30x is that's a big number. That's a big number.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I guess my relationship with AI, it kind of changes. And I think because I've recently shot a short and I've thought about using AI to enhance shots and improve shots. Yes. And I guess that's where you're coming from with the poster, which I think I'm cool with. I think if you've got something existing, you're essentially just using a souped up version of Photoshop to kind of make it better. I think when you go, do me a poster with a dinosaur on and a man running away from it with blonde hair, and it's not your film, and at the moment you can kind of tell it's an AI poster, I think that would probably potentially turn people off. But yeah, it's a funny sort of area we're in at the moment where we're kind of not one or the other.
I think the hardest part to really do is how to test that well. And I think one of the benefits of YouTube YouTube has I know filmmakers have a conflicting opinion, but one thing YouTube does so well is in their A/B testing of thumbnails, which in this case, given movies, would be artwork. I guess, and that even applies to trailers and things of that nature, sneak peeks as well. One of the things they do though is they combine the click-through rate, the CTR, with the watch time. right? And so what I think so cool about that hybrid metric is that as a filmmaker now you're saying, okay, so let's just say you did the dinosaur one and your film, it looks nothing like that CGI publication. So people are clicking on it, they're watching for 10 seconds and they're leaving. YouTube will penalize that variant for you in a good way of saying like, hey, that's kind of clickbaity. And so we actually don't want to surface that. But if you're able to drive the click-through rate and get that taste, and people are like, actually, this is a great film, and maybe that artwork wasn't exactly aligned, and now I go like that, and now you have an opportunity to grow. I do think on every other platform, and it's something I certainly would love to experiment and go really deep with Relay. I mean, on a personal level, it would just be really exciting for Relay to say, okay, YouTube offers 3 thumbnails, testing the original and the 2 variants. What if we did 10? Like what does that look like, right?
God,
how can
10
we
posters I've got to make? I don't want to do 10. I'll give you 3.
How do we? But what if that taught you the right artwork that Relay helped you learn that was the thing to go then distribute on every other streaming platform that then gave you the 30x result on all the other streaming platforms. Like that to me is the ecosystem that I get really excited about, at least on the artwork front. But I could talk artwork for days, so I'll stop.
Cool. Okay. Well, we're through the marketing and platform growth bit. We're on to tech features, app features. So when can filmmakers expect Relay apps for LG TV, PlayStation, Xbox, and browser viewing?
Yeah, so I mean, I would love the answer soon. I'm guessing kind of in the next yearish type time frame, but with no commitments right now. We know how important being on Samsung and LG TVs and PlayStation, Xbox certainly are. The team worked really hard to even get us in the spot of having Roku and Fire TV and iPad, iPhone, Apple TV, Android, etc. And so that's really no small feat. So no promise on a timeline there, but we think that especially Samsung platform and the LG TVs are really important. That's certainly how a lot of people watch films. And so that's up high on the list. But on a nerdy side of things, it's like each one of these things have a different kind of code base. So we kind of have to replicate the same app over and over. And despite how simple sometimes it can look and feel, it's quite complex, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. Cool. And am I right in saying, so if we do go to this, am I right in saying if you've got a TV that's able to have the Relay app on it, can you get it absolutely everywhere, countrywide, or are there still regions you can't access it?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a global app. We have obviously a bunch of titles in dozens of languages, so it's certainly a global app, and that is, I think, from a filmmaker perspective, one really cool thing about Relay. It's like, hey, once you're on Relay, you are global.
Right. Okay. And will the I'm getting really in deep now. Will the release date, because I know on Filmhub, if you pay for the subscription thing, you can kind of have a release date. Can you do the same on Relay? Or will you be able to do the same on Relay and say, right, I want it to go day one on such and such release?
So Relay is, from Filmhub's perspective, Relay is just another channel. So assuming that your account has the correct permissions and you set it up to go live in that way, we would have that ability. It's just another channel from Filmhub's perspective.
Right, gotcha. Okay, cool. Filmmaker tools, promo codes, and promotion strategy. Are there plans for? Oh, right. Well, you've talked about this. Are there plans for Relay branded marketing assets? Sounds like you're working on those at the moment. Will Relay highlight filmmakers who actively promote, feature them on the homepage, social channels, and run cross promotions?
Yeah, so this is something I've been certainly ideating and discussing with some filmmakers on. I'm personally really excited about how do we go do this. I've been also thinking a lot about, kind of like watch lists, kind of have this ability of saying like, hey, here's a list of titles. Either a particular person makes a recommendation or a filmmaker has said like, hey, these are some of my top films, things of that nature. So certainly interested on doing that. I do, if anyone's listening and are interested in experimenting with that, feel free to join the Facebook group and let's talk about it. But I think it's a really interesting idea, and I'm certainly actively exploring it.
Sounds good. I don't know if any other platform does this, but I've always wanted to have a list that I can share with friends, and just because what will happen is I'll be on the phone to my mum. I'll go, oh, you should watch such and such on Netflix. By the time she's put the phone down, she's forgotten what it is. She won't be able to find it, and she'll think it's called something else. Whereas if I could just put it to a list and it will get added to Jimmy's films that you should watch, Mum.
Right.
She might actually watch it, and that goes for the other thing I talk about on the channel is often filmmakers think, oh, all my friends and family are going to watch this film when it comes out. And that's probably the audience you can't rely on because everyone's busy and, I'll get round to it. If you can send them a link with a list of other cool films on this subscription platform, maybe they'll get around to watching your movie.
Yeah, I love that. Spotify does that really well. I think Spotify thinks about, playlist in a very collaborative way. Two people can come together. You can obviously co-DJ an event thing. And I think there's a lot of product inspiration to be taken from Spotify, thinking about that way, sharing a playlist, collaborating on a playlist, things of that nature. So I agree with you 100%. It seems that most streaming platforms have not really brought that in. And then there's sort of the social movie thing. They do it, but you can't watch it there. And so it would be really cool if Relay could offer a solution for that.
Yeah. And as a horror filmmaker, I want a 31 Days of Halloween list, and I want all of my films on it, please. But so that we can send that to people and challenge them to watch all of those horror movies over the days of Halloween.
Yeah, I like that.
So content management, licensing and visibility. How long does it take for a licensed Filmhub title to appear inside Relay?
It's pretty darn fast, but I think in terms of setting expectations is about 1 day. So, if you get licensed there, it's very fast, but
very fast.
Kind of that's mentally good. 1 day. Yeah.
1 day. Cool. What's Relay's strategy for discoverability when the library becomes massive? How will indie titles avoid being buried?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back into this human curation, AI perfection blend. We really want to, go to the consumer with this opportunity to say, hey, there's really great films in here, and we've help you find them, and human curation is part of that. And I also think AI does help do that at scale, though, right? And so we want to find that right balance, but we certainly believe in human curation at the foundation, and then using AI kind of around the edges. I do think like the ideas we're talking around playlisting and sharing some of these watch lists and things of that nature, I think can also help with that. So, I mean, it's a tough one to get exactly right, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. And again, going back to this opportunity of having over 20,000 titles in there, so a lot of different ways of experimenting and surfacing some of that content. So still early, but I think it's going to be a blend of human curation, a little bit of AI on the edges. Will
Relay ever support filmmaker curated pages? I guess that's kind of leaning into that playlist thing. Would you have a filmmaker page? Is it going to go a bit IMDb with more information, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. We've already launched the, so like the Relay to public title page, right? So if you go into your Filmhub account, you can see your Relay page that has all the different streaming platforms you're on. I think you can imagine that being really expanded out. You can imagine dedicated things within the Relay app. So we certainly are very excited about this opportunity to give filmmakers a little bit of a playground to kind of wrap either their filmmaker identity or title identity for them to go and share and go build around that.
Cool. And that would potentially include behind the scenes stuff. Would you add, like an old school DVD? Would you be able to put more content on there than just your film and your trailer?
I mean, I think that when you think about that, pickrelay.com link that we provide on the Filmhub side, I think the kind of roadmap on that front is really exciting. You could do a lot of those types of ideas. You could imagine, email sign up list type stuff and, get notified when I do my next film. I think there's a lot of, even Patreon style features, right? There's just a lot of, I think, playground there that I think filmmakers are using existing tools, the link trees of the world to try to, mimic some of those things. But like, hey, what does a movie native experience look like? And I think Filmhub has the opportunity, Relay has the opportunity to build out that feature set to be really powerful and thinking about, okay, as a filmmaker, I would like my audience to do this. Like, here's that tool suite to go do exactly that. And here's the 5 use cases you can go do. So I'm very excited about that front.
Cool. Then I'm on to my last section, which is international reach, subtitles and localization. What languages and regions, you give me a full list, what languages and regions are fully supported and what regions are coming? I know that's a difficult one without... But yeah.
Right, yeah. So the app is available worldwide and global, and we obviously have many titles in many different languages as well. So the app is quite global today already.
Yeah. Is Relay planning to support subtitles, dubbing, or multi-language metadata uploads for filmmakers?
Yeah, it's on the roadmap. It's not at the top of the roadmap right now. We're really trying to build out that core app experience, and so I think by the time this is published, we'll have full rebrand of the app also published, and it has more collections and genre and more discoverability in the app. And so we've certainly been prioritizing how to do that really well. But I do think subtitles and dubbing and all those things are powerful, but they're a little bit below the stack at the moment.
Yeah. Last one on this list was, will Relay help filmmakers reach international audiences more effectively than existing AVOD partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think that our hope certainly is yes. And we believe that our SVOD model and then doing it at the affordable price point is a globally affordable price as well. Obviously you see the bigger platforms of the world, charging these much larger prices. And obviously you can, do different pricing in different parts of the country or the different world. But we think we generally have that affordable price worldwide. And I think it benchmarks us really well. So we think it's competitive in SVOD globally already.
Lovely. And that's all my filmmaker questions. Is there anything you think I've missed? Anything you want to talk about and tell me about Relay that you think we haven't covered?
I think anyone listening, I really want to double down on the community thing. We want to build out a referral program, affiliate programs, just open to collaborating with filmmakers in different ways to really build the world's first streaming platform that has a relationship with the actual art that's on there, rather than this sort of like soulless big conglomerate brand that there's no back and forth on. So I think ideas from filmmakers and collaborations are really interesting to me. So I think that would be the only thing I just want to highlight, is that we really see this as a two-way street. It's not just this entity that is, trying to push out films without conversation back and forth.
Yeah, well, you've asked for it now. Us filmmakers are a rabid bunch. Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fair, though. I mean, again, we've obviously we alluded and talked about the Facebook group, and I've spent a lot of time in there, and I do think obviously being transparent and coming with positivity and yes ands, right, of how do we go build this, I think is really important. And I think so far the filmmaker community that I've gotten to know has been really, I think, open-minded and excited about the spirit of what we're trying to do. And I don't want us to lose that.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested in self-distribution, Filmhub, Tubi, all of that stuff, then I recommend 2 episodes to you. I've spoken to Jason Horton twice. He's Mr. Filmhub, so he's a good one if you want to listen to me ask him a bunch of questions about the platform. And the other one is Justin Milton. He talks about Tubi, and he talks about designing his films for his audience, so it's definitely worth having a listen. See you on the next one.